Welcome back to Faction Entertainment. Today, I will show you a crime, drama, and mystery movie from 1995 titled Seven. Before we get started, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can keep up to date with all our latest upcoming videos. Spoilers ahead, watch out and enjoy.
The movie starts with a middle-aged man getting ready to leave for work. The scene shifts at a murder scene where the man named Detective Somerset is analyzing the site and considering every point as he's observing the scenario. Another man joins him and introduces himself as Detective Mills. Afterward, both of them leave the apartment block and Somerset offers Mills to go to a bar in the heavy downpour so they can have a chat about the general things. Mills rejects his offer and later defends himself by recalling his usefulness in the homicide department, but Somerset simply shuts him off, stating that for the next 7 days, he should hold his horses. The next morning, Detective Mills wakes up as his beautiful wife lay asleep in his arms. After getting up, he starts to suit up when suddenly he receives a telephone call. After jotting down the essential information, he engages intimately with his wife, who complains about the disturbance at the dawn of the day. Afterward, Mills stands in the heavy rainfall as Somerset takes out his stuff from the car's trunk after collecting it. Both of them follow a policeman to a dark, dingy, and musty apartment. Upon entering it, they arrive in a room where they find an oversized, huge feature of a man seated on a chair with his face dumped in a spaghetti bowl. The detectives start to observe every single aspect with their torches. Mills starts passing on his remarks non-stop as Somerset inspects the whole scenario with silence. He sits down to see the fat guy's hands and feet overstuffed, hemorrhaged and tied up with wires. Somerset starts taking notes, while Mills discovers a bucket full of hideously smelling vomit under the table. In the meantime, a doctor comes on the scene and declares the fat guy, the most obvious fact, is dead. The detectives drive back to the morgue, where the coroner explains the abnormal situations of the victim and concludes that the man actually bursts to death partially due to overeating. Upon moving towards his head, they notice significant bruises. Mills deduces that they're from a gun pushed into his head and declares it a homicide. Later, the detectives meet with their superior to discuss the case. Somerset requests to get reassigned, but the head simply rejects by stating that Somerset has only 6 days till retirement, and this would be his last case. As for Mills, he gets involved in a personal dispute with Somerset. The head shuts him off and asks him to leave. Meanwhile, Somerset gets stuck cleaning up the fat guy. The scene then shifts to a hotel where the district attorney is giving a press conference. On the back end, Mills moves through the people and arrives at the crime scene. This time it's a homicide in an apartment, with the word greed etched on the carpet with the victim's blood. Back at his office, Somerset's name is getting scraped off from his front door. His superior enters the office to inform him about the death of Lee Good, an esteemed lawyer. Somerset ignores him, so the superior leaves while providing him with a glass jar containing small pieces of plastic. Somerset gets attentive to the detail as he gets told that these pieces were fed to the victim. Curious as he was, Somerset visits the apartment to investigate. As he moves around observing the details, he notices deep slashes on the wooden floor. He then takes out the pieces of plastic and comes to see that, astonishingly, the pieces fit right in the slashes. Charged by the curiosity and the intensity of the situation, he pulls apart the fridge and sees a note behind it. On the wall, gluttony was written with grease, and under it, a paper note containing a verse from a poem. Next day at the office, Somerset presents the note, stating that it's from the poem Paradise Lost by Milton. His superiors stare at him with attentiveness as Somerset concludes how greed and gluttony are 2 from the 7 deadly sins. Intelligently, he declares that they should wait for 5 more on the way. After leaving the office, Somerset makes his way to a grand library where the guards were playing poker. He takes out several books from the racks regarding the 7 deadly sins and their aftermaths. Throughout the night, he goes through the books and observes the illustrations depicted in them. He also writes a note for Mills to read these books as well. As a guide for later, he photocopies many of the pages, and after he's done, he leaves the library. The following morning, Detective Mills runs to his car in heavy rain. A policeman comes up to his window and provides him with brief versions of the books that Somerset mentioned. Afterward, he comes to his newly assigned office, which was previously owned by Somerset. Mills entered to see him seated at the table, but he gets up as Mills moves in with his stuff. As they start to work on their things, Mills gets a call from his wife and she asks to talk to Somerset. Mills is astounded at her motive and watches in disbelief as his wife talks to his partner. As the call ends, Somerset states that he's invited to a family summer at Mills' place. That night, as Somerset knocks on Mills' door, he gets introduced to his wife, Tracy. She invites him in and he settles down. Afterward, They sit at the dinner table in awkward silence. Tracy tries to small talk, but it doesn't lead anywhere. In the meantime, the table starts shuddering and the whole house starts to vibrate as if it's being hit by a massive earthquake. Somerset starts to get restless, but Tracy assures him it's just the subway that rattles up the whole house. Following a brief silence, Somerset cracks a joke and everyone bursts into fits of laughter. After the dinner, the detectives analyze pictures of Ellie Gould's homicide. One specific detail catches their attention: the bloodstained picture of Mrs. Good, who wasn't there during the incident. After a thorough discussion, they decide to meet Gould's wife in search of any clues or indications. That night they visit her apartment. Mrs. Good plunges into grief and cries out with all her heart as Mills hands her the pictures. They try to dig out some details from her, but she simply states her inability to think and conclude. But suddenly she notices a change and tells them that a painting on the wall is upside down. This statement raises their curiosity, and they thank her for the assistance. The scene then shifts to Ellie Gould's apartment, where they take off the painting to find nothing there. They both watch in disappointment as the wall is empty, and so is the backside of the painting itself. Somerset rips apart the canvas but finds nothing. Mills gets frustrated upon having zero leads, but Somerset climbs up the table and scrubs off the wall with a brush. To their utmost amazement, some fingerprints appear on the wall. Immediately, the forensics team is called and everyone looks in sheer bewilderment as a message stating, "Help me," is visible under the blue light. The fingerprints get into the database, and both of them wait for an untenable time until it gets a match. After a day, they get woken up by the authorities and everyone goes into action. The detectives raid the apartment block along with the SWAT team and many police officers. They arrive at apartment number 306 and break down the door. The SWAT enters a room and comes across a person lying in the bed covered with sheets. The officers call out to him, and as he doesn't wake up, they lift the covers. Suddenly, they retreat in extreme horror and disgust as a decayed and rotting corpse, a scene strapped to the bed. The officers shout for the detectives to come to take a look. Upon arriving, Mills orders them to leave the place. Meanwhile, Somerset notices the word "sloth" painted on the wall. Mills finds some pictures on the table side in a sequence, starting a year ago, as he looks at the hair samples and all of the other stuff. One of the SWAT officers nears the corpse to look at him. In a sudden flash of a moment, the hideous-looking man gets alive and everyone falls back in horror. All of them pull out their guns as the wretched man twists in his straps. Somerset immediately calls the ambulance and the body is taken away. Later, as they discuss the scene, a photographer comes up and snaps their pictures. Mills loses his temper and shouts at the photographer to make him go away. Afterward, they visit the hospital, where the doctor describes the despicable situation of the man. Somerset asks if he will be able to speak, but the doctor informs that he chewed on his own tongue a long time ago. With nothing to look forward to, they both leave. At his home, Somerset gets a call from Tracy, who asks him to meet her tomorrow morning. The next morning, they meet at a restaurant, and Tracy shares her feelings with Somerset. She explains how she hates the city and reveals that she's pregnant, but hasn't told Mills. She asks Somerset to advise her. In the reply, he shares an experience of his own when he had a relationship. His partner got pregnant, but he didn't want to bring the kid into the ruthless, deadly world he knew so well. As a result, their relationship didn't work out due to the contradictions. Therefore, he advises her to keep the news to herself and don't tell Mills. After their brief meeting, Somerset is in the office and discusses how the killer is fully prepared and patient. In a flurry of thoughts, he gathers Mills and takes him along to meet someone, while deducting how the killer takes his inspirations from primitive books. They wait at a cafe, and as a man arrives and sits in front of them, Somerset offers him the cash he retrieved from Mills. Later, they sit in an office. Somerset explains that the guy is from the FBI. The bureau keeps a record of the people searching for uncommon books, and with that, they can retrieve the address. In the meantime, the FBI guy comes and hands them an envelope. They travel to the location and are about to open the apartment when a man arrives at the end of the hall. He stops dead in his tracks, and just as they notice him, the man shoots at them and runs down the stairs. Mills and Somerset dive the bullets and start to chase the culprit. Mills runs down the stairs where he encounters a bullet from the killer. They get involved in a cat and mouse chase as Mills runs after him, crossing the apartments and going door to door. Following the chase, he gets out of the apartment block in the rain. Upon proceeding, he gets attacked by the man. Blood drips from his face as Mills goes down. The killer puts the gun to Mills' head as he lay there helplessly. After a while, the killer surprisingly takes off, leaving him alive. Just in the meantime, Somerset also arrives, and they both go back to the apartment upstairs. After a heated argument, Mills breaks the door and they go inside. Upon examining the apartment, they find it laid with ritualistic impressions. The holy crosses and various other religious stuff are scattered all around. Mills comes upon a dark room containing photos of the victims, whereas Somerset finds notebooks containing the killer's thoughts and notes, his whole life poured into words. In the meantime, the culprit's sketch is made out, and as they're examining the apartment, a phone starts to ring. Mills hurries and pulls it out from a hidden place and answers it. To their utmost surprise, it's the killer, who starts by stating that he admires them and how they've carried on their efforts. In the meantime, Somerset records the whole call. Later, as they go through the pictures, they come across a blonde hooker. Afterward, they visit a king shop where the owner provides them with a picture and suitable info about a weird unit he custom made for John Doe. In the meantime, they get the call that the blonde hooker has been found. They visit the club, and as they enter the whorehouse, Somerset sees lust engraved on the wooden door. Inside, a hooker lay dead on the bed while a man is shrieking in terror as the officers assist him. Mills orders him to get out and take him to the police station. As the investigation proceeds, the murderer of the prostitute is trembling with fear. His face is ash white and in complete shock, as Somerset puts a picture of a dangerous-looking BDSM instrument. The picture showed custom-made male leather lingerie with a sharp dagger placed at the groin, pointing forward. The guy cries and shudders in fear as he explains how John Doe made him kill the prostitute at gunpoint. The next day, 911 gets the report of another killing. The detectives arrive at the scene of the murder of a beautiful woman. She lay in her bed with her face all messed up and bandaged. Afterward, the wall behind her bed portrayed the word pride. After the visit, the detectives return to their office where John Doe comes and gives himself up. The whole police station goes into action as he surrenders himself. Mills gets extremely furious and agitated, and he orders John to get down on the ground. John asks for his lawyer, and it is revealed that the man scraped off his fingertips to get rid of the fingerprints. The lawyer states that John will give himself up completely, with a confession if they follow his conditions, otherwise 2 more bodies will end up dead. Mills agrees with the deal, and later they get ready for their adventure. They get wires taped up against their chest, and they drive off with John Doe as a rescue backup. A police chopper also rises in the air. They make their way through the town and lead towards the suburban areas. The chopper tells them as the car leaves the highway and treads along a narrow road. Meanwhile, they start questioning John about his activities. In his reply, John states the reason behind the murders, how each one of the victims was involved in one of the 7 deadly sins. As they talk, John defines the area in which they were going to make a stop. Somerset dispatches it to the chopper. As they arrive at the spot, they get out of the car and observe the deserted place. They find themselves in the middle of nowhere and only surrounded by electric towers. As they move John out of the car and into the field, Somerset sees a van coming down the road. He runs to his vehicle to stop the car. Meanwhile, Mills stays with John. Somerset stops the van and gets the driver out at gunpoint. In his defense, the driver states that he's simply delivering a package, and with that, he gets out of a box from the trunk and gives it to Somerset. As the driver runs off, Somerset slowly cuts open the box and immediately backs off in terror. He immediately calls off the chopper and runs towards Mills. In the meantime, John starts to play mind games with Mills as he describes the incident by mentioning Tracy. He keeps on explaining how he entered the house and beheaded her. In the meantime, Somerset also arrives, and Mills demands an explanation. Somerset tries to control him, but he loses himself as the news of the tragic death of his wife hits him. Mills goes into even deeper grief as he gets to know she was pregnant. In sheer indignation, he shoots John in the head as Somerset's efforts to stop him go in vain. Afterward, we get to know that all the 7 sins are reprimanded, and the movie ends in tragedy as Mills leaves in depression, and Somerset silently states that the world is worth fighting for.
That is all for this video. Make sure to subscribe to Faction Entertainment and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.